Coming up, Jon Cryer joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
That's right. Hi, everyone. It's Illeana Douglas. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. Look at me with my pen, like a real talk show host, like David Letterman or something. I'm here with Tamara Bird.
Hi, everybody.
And very excited to have Jon Cryer
Super
here.
Super excited.
Such a fan of his, of course. Put so much a part of our youth, too.
Yes.
John Hughes movies, Pretty in Pink.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
And with so much going on in the news, of course, I've been doing lots of press for Trailblazing Women.
Yay.
On TCM. And every time I try to talk about female pioneers,
what happens?
They say, well, tell us more about the Harvey Weinstein scandal.
Let's talk about sexual harassment and abuse, shall we?
But
I mean, it's a big story. It's a big deal.
I think it's a big deal just because, again, it's like a pressure cooker of everybody feels safe again to talk about this environment. Over the weekend, he was kicked out of the Academy. I'm a member of the Academy.
Yeah.
I applaud that decision.
Yeah.
Of course, there are always going to be naysayers. What about this person? What about this person? But I think the thing is that it sets a tone that just of kind of a morality, and I think that going forward that's all you can ask for,
and that there are serious consequences.
Well, listen,
right?
when you make a movie or television show, there's a morality clause within it, and on all, you can't commit a crime, right. It's you can't have this kind of inappropriate behavior. I think that for those of us who have transitioned from this is something that has happened all our life to now it's inappropriate, so I think it's jarring. The question that I keep getting asked by men is like, when is it going to end? Where does this end?
Meaning the accusations or the number of people who are affected?
I think that what they mean is like, they feel very defensive. Like,
yes.
Where will it end?
Right.
Can
I wink at somebody or can I not?
Exactly.
Like that? Mm-hmm.
That's a comment.
Right.
But it has caused me in my own life to, again, reevaluate, and I was talking about this last week, again, a permissive environment of sexism, like on the show that I did, Action.
Yes.
Where you're kind of asked to play along and think it's funny, but it really isn't funny. But you train yourself to kind of say, well, it's, part of the show and the wildness and of the show. And I was also outnumbered like 20 men to 1.
Right.
But I was expressing today that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like, that was an experience where I was so proud of being on the show, and I loved the show so much, and I really wanted it to be a good show. And as it veered into having me do things that I thought were just, inappropriate, I complained to Chris Thompson about it, and for doing that, he removed me from the show. So, and then had a serious talking, we talked about it, and it was kind of like when they brought me back, it was like, I knew it was understood, like, don't complain anymore,
Right.
And that was something that I carried with me, for the rest of my career. Like, if something bad happens, don't talk about it. People don't really necessarily want a problem. This goes for dangerous stunts,
Yes.
all sorts of things.
Yes.
Of, have I been in the position, I've made jokes about it, where I've done many car scenes, unpermitted, camera on the car, really, late at night, had a lot of real near misses, driving or doing a stunt. I did a stunt in a movie called Californians where I had to, drown in the ocean, and I practically, around the 10th time you do this, you're like, I think I'm really going to drown. Do we have this shot? So there always is a kind of, you're in a movie, so you never anticipate getting hurt. But
Of course.
I think that all these conversations are good. I think that at a certain point, we need to flip the page into a more positive thing
Right.
by saying, okay, well, put these women to work then. Like, let's not, let's use this moment for something creative.
Right. Right.
And I hopefully, again, I think it's a good thing. The other thing I want to talk about is, on a positive note, the Steven Spielberg documentary is fantastic. So I watched it last night. It was really inspiring. What was the most inspiring part was, he said he watched, when he was a young kid, he watched Lawrence of Arabia, and he wanted to be a director, and he saw Lawrence of Arabia, and he got really depressed, and he said, no, there's no way, because I could never make a movie as good as Lawrence of Arabia. And
Wow.
I thought it was so important for him to say that, because I think that all of us who look at a Steven Spielberg movie go like,
There's no place for me. There's no way I can do it.
He's so thoughtful with his shots. It's just, it's incredible. And what an amazing filmmaker, probably one of the great filmmakers of all time, not just, we've got the Howard Hawkses and the Billy Wilders, and I certainly have my favorite directors from the past, but you'd have to say, of somebody that has gone from the art, watching the arc of his career made me actually reevaluate and reappreciate him, because I like sentiment. And
So do I. Big fan.
Yeah, so, and my favorite film of his is Close Encounters. And so he's had like kind of a bumpy road in terms of successful movies, and then people didn't like The Color Purple, and I thought it was I love 1941. Everybody knows that. That's one of my faves. So it was very interesting. And I guess that's about all I have to say on the subject.
Well, I think we should bring in John.
I'm so excited. Of course, John is an actor, he's a writer, he's a producer, wrote a book, of course, but best known for his 2-time Emmy-winning role on 2.5 Men. He's appeared in numerous television shows, and his films, we're going to get to it. Superman 4, of course, Hot Shots, and of course, Duckie and Pretty in Pink. Please welcome, everyone, Jon Cryer, if they'll let you in. Now, John, and you can wear the headphones or not wear I like the headphones because but you've achieved something in show business that nobody else has. It's pretty rare. We have never met. There you are.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's almost like, how is that literally possible?
I don't know. Especially, and you're from the East Coast.
I'm from the East Coast.
Yeah.
I was in New York. I think when you were doing Torch Song Trilogy, I probably would have been in acting school.
Okay.
So this was around 82, 83.
Yeah.
So we were in and of course I was listening to your mom's record album, and we're going to get to my obsession with that. But yeah, so you were in New York. Mm-hmm. But my parents were poor, so like I would have loved to have gone to theater camp. That would have been.
Oh gosh, yes, you would have been the belle of the ball at theater camp. It was an amazing thing. No, I went to a camp called Stage Door Manor in upstate New York, and it was pretty much where parents sent their kids if they had no idea what to do with them.
Right.
But also there was a lot of just musical theater nerds as well, and that's the where I sort of lay at that time. And it was just an amazing way to spend the summer, and just your mind would explode from meeting all these people and doing. You had to do a show every 2 weeks. You had to do a different show every 2 weeks.
Love
with a bunch
that.
of kids. And it was wildly inappropriate casting. Wildly,
I know, that's the fun part of it.
9-year-old Jewish girl is playing Sweeney Todd. Okay, sure, why not? Why not? Let's do this. But I'm sad that I did not meet you.
I know. Well, we had that was a similar upbringing. I was in the Hartford Stage Company youth theater.
Oh, okay.
And so we did musicals in the summer. That was my way in too. Mm-hmm. But then when I got to New York, and I went to my first Broadway audition, I was like, yeah, you suck.
You have a little work to do.
you know, being Sylvia in Two Gentlemen of Verona is not quite gonna cut it.
Hey, we all get there. I had my first big Broadway audition was for Torch Song Trilogy, as a matter of fact, and it was terrifying. But
Can't imagine.
But before that, I had done Oliver. I was a anonymous chorus member in Oliver.
Yes.
I was in Godspell in my junior high. You got to start somewhere.
Yes, that's true. Those were all the great musicals. Okay, we're gonna get to your mom, but I have to ask my favorite question.
Okay.
What was the first movie you saw? I always love this because I'm so curious. What was the first movie you saw, and who took you to see it?
The first movie I recall going to see was Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
That's
the original one, old school one with Roddy McDowell and
best.
Who's wonderful. And him I ended up meeting. You, not so much.
Yes. For
some reason. But that was I recall only vaguely knowing the first Planet of the Apes. But I remember really liking it.
Yeah.
So my dad took me to Escape from the Planet of the Apes, and I remember the line down the street. Oh, this was such a big deal, this movie.
Yeah.
And I remember the big teaser of the movie was, a spacecraft lands, and all these generals are gathered to say, "Welcome back to Earth, astronauts," and they take off their helmets, and they're apes. What the? What the? It was, but I recall loving it, and that was a movie that very early on sort of introduced the idea that humans were kind of idiots. And I recall getting that at 6 years old and going, "Yeah, we got some trouble."
Yeah, we're screwed up. Now, both of your parents were actors.
Both my parents were actors. My dad took me to that, I believe. My parents were divorced by then. So he would take me places on the weekend. And it was very much an old school divorce, none of that 50-50 stuff. Just, dad gets every other weekend.
Right.
That's 4 days a month that a dad gets to be with their kids. But that was the expectation at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my dad's cool apartment down in the Village. Because he was an actor, and remains an actor, and it was tiny. Oh my God! I remember how just incredibly tiny it was, and I remember the woman who would later become my stepmother, it just brings back a lot of. I remember anti-war protests and how the Village was back then. It was just so crazy, and I remember smelling pot everywhere, and that only diminished for a small period in the 80s and 90s, and then it's all back. It smells of it once again.
So with your mom, whose name is Gretchen Cryer, and I have to tell you, which is a story I already told you. It's so excited just to meet you to tell it, so I can tell the story. Is that when I was at I went to one acting school, and they kicked me out after 1 year. They told me I was untalented.
No.
Yes, that was the dreaded it was called the American Academy, and they were they told me I was horrible, and so I was like, well, wait a minute, who says there's a rule? So I went to the neighborhood playhouse. And that I was like a big hit there, and then my life changed. But anyway, cutting back to the academy, we had an apartment on Madison Avenue, and the main girl was who had the apartment. His name was Joanne Schätzlein, and there was like 18 other women living there, and we'd go to school. But we knew that when Joanne was depressed, she'd take out her album of I'm getting my act together, and taking on the road.
This was my mom's show, which a lot of people think was a one-woman show. It was never a one-woman show.
No, they were a female duo.
Well, the
like
songwriters, yes.
Songwriters.
My mom was half of Cryer and Ford, who wrote the music to it. But no, it's a big musical with the whole band and the whole 9 yards. It was about her, and it was a feminist musical, and that was considered a big deal in the 70s.
It was people's anthem. When I was going in school, so this must have been like, I'm gonna say, I don't know, I'm gonna take a guess, like 82 or 83, like somewhere in there. So it was the album. So she must have already been doing the show, and then the album came out.
Yes.
And then that song was like a big audition song, which was called
there was a few. There
Old
was
Friends.
Old Friend, yes.
That was, every time myself together.
It's very much a
But
it's a cabaret song. It really is something that people are drinking in a bar at 2 a.m.
Yes.
At Marie's Crisis Cafe down on Christopher Street.
Well, I must have heard it 18,000 times because it was like an anthem in our house. So we loved it. But was that something that your mom did post the divorce, or was she working on that before?
It was post divorce, and in fact, it talked about her divorce quite a bit, although never mentioning her children. Which I was like, "Wow, Mom. Okay, no, that's cool. It's cool." But I saw it when I was 13 years old. It came out in 1978.
Yeah.
And and it's a big eye-opening experience to see your mom as an artist.
Yeah.
And seeing her cursing every now and then, and and being very open about her life, even though it wasn't strictly autobiographical.
Right.
It was clearly dealing with a lot of stuff that she dealt with, and I remember it just it just sort of opened my eyes about her. But also I was terribly embarrassed because it's like my mom is, God, my mom's singing rock songs, please. She's my mom, I didn't buy it at the time. But it was fascinating because I took my son when he was 13 to see it staged at Encores at City Center in New York City. And it was the same sort of mind blower for him at the time because he saw grandma cursing, or a character representing grandma rather.
Yes.
Cursing and seeing my mom as an artist.
Right.
Was very strange for him. She was always just his grandma.
Yeah.
So it's had a real sort of it's been a vessel of familial, tradition.
Yes. Well, I love it. I recommend everyone. I was re-listening to it in preparation, and I was like, "That song's really good."
Yeah, the songs are fantastic. It's and it's a terrific show. I mean, it's about a woman who's trying to change her nightclub act to reflect her life. And back in the 70s, you didn't really do that. You didn't do skits in your nightclub act. It just wasn't done. So it's about her fighting with her manager to get her act the way that she wants it.
Yes.
And it really holds up. It's a lovely show. You see so many shows that are that have sort of taken that same format. And
that's what I was going to say was like post that I saw a lot of shows where they tried to do it. Shirley MacLaine had one, and Andrea Marcovici, and a lot of people. Then it became sort of au courant to kind of to do shows like that. So she really is a trailblazer. So at what point did you think, did you go to theater camp? Did you always know you wanted to be an actor, or because they were actors?
Yes, I always loved the life. I always loved being backstage. I remember my dad was in the Fantastics off Broadway, and incredibly cramped dressing rooms. And I mean, it was like a hallway basically that they put up mirrors and they put in chairs, and I remember the older actors whose faces were just caked with makeup, and and then there was the young ingenue who was in her underwear right next to the old guy,
Of course.
And I remember this just rocked my world as a kid. I was like, wait a minute, girls stand around scantily clad. This is crazy. And I remembered loving the life. Everybody was having such a wonderful time, and when a bunch of actors get together and put on a show, it's usually a fun group.
Yeah.
And I loved that thing. And in fact, when I got into the movie business, I missed that. I really missed that camaraderie, because in a movie you show up the days you shoot, and you shoot those days, and then you're done. You know? And it's just not the same as putting together a show with a bunch of people who you have to depend on to hit all their cues, and that guy has to throw me that prop at exactly the right time, and that guy, the collaboration is really visceral and really exciting.
So when you got in Torch Song Trilogy, were your parents? I mean, I guess the obvious question is, were they like, "Oh, good for you," or were they like,
No, that's exactly right. It was just a tone of sort of rueful, "Oh, here he goes," they did not want me to get into the business. They never tried to stop me.
Right.
And like they paid for that fancy schmancy summer camp up in upstate New York. But but they clearly were hoping that I would do something a little more substantial.
Right.
I think. But by the time I was 18 and I started, auditioning for things and started, my story was very atypical because I auditioned for Torch Song Trilogy and Brighton Beach Memoirs on the same day.
Oh my God.
And these were both parts that Matthew Broderick had started, and I
Yeah.
bore a striking resemblance to Matthew Broderick at the time. And literally the next day, I got offered both of them.
Oh my
which,
God.
This is not. That day I said, okay, I am the luckiest mofo
Yeah.
in New York City, because that just does not happen.
Yeah.
And it was just an absolute accident of the timing, and that I looked. I mean, literally during my audition for Harvey Fierstein.
Yeah.
He gasped when I walked on stage, and literally that night I came to see the show, and oh, come on, Estelle Getty was backstage, and I walked up to say you were wonderful in the show, because she was
Yeah.
amazing in that show. And she walked up to me and said, "Hello, darling," and she grabbed me by the face, and I said, "It's so nice to meet you." And she looked at me and realized I was not Matthew Broderick,
Yeah.
and her face just fell. And that was something I got used to in my career. But but at any rate, but again, I just happened to come in at the luckiest possible time.
Right. So did you, at this point, were you like Harpo and Lucy? Did you and Broderick come face to face? Or did you
I was
work?
his understudy for like 6 weeks. Actually, I was his understudy, and when we're next to each other, we don't look that much alike. You
Right.
see all the differences when we're actually next to each other. But there was never. He was already winning a Tony for Best Actor, so
Right.
it was never like it was competitive.
Yeah.
And I just had so much admiration for him, but also I had a certain frustration because he was very healthy and never missed a show while I was his understudy, unfortunately.
So doing that, and then you I can't believe you did both. I mean, how did you handle doing both shows?
Well, here's a good way to do that.
God.
I got myself fired from Brighton Beach Memoirs,
Oh.
and then did Torch Song Trilogy. No, what happened was I got offered both jobs the next day. I took the job of being Matthew Broderick's understudy.
Yeah.
In Brighton Beach, and within and about 4 weeks into it, we did a run through for Gene Saks, the director, who's
Right.
a terrific director. And
Love Gene Saks.
And I was still a little shaky on the lines.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part.
It's Neil Simon.
And it's Neil Simon, and I was scared out of my wits. And I'd only been working 2 days a week with the stage manager at that point. But what I did not know was I was actually supposed to be completely off book and rock solid in my lines 4 weeks in, because I got to be ready to go on.
Right.
And I was not.
Right.
And so I didn't get any notes from Gene Saks, and I thought, yeah, I just nailed this.
I love it.
And then I found out that no, in fact, I had not nailed it. In fact, just the opposite. And they fired me. And I'm so grateful again for that, actually, because the tougher experiences are what teach you things.
Right.
And it changed my whole. This is a business.
Right.
You have real obligations as a performer, and you have to do them. And this isn't about how wonderful it is to be with another group of actors. It isn't about the wonder of the creativity. You have a job that
Right.
you have to do.
Right.
And so I'm really glad I learned that then. But it did give me time to do Torch Song Trilogy. It opened up my schedule nicely.
Oh my God.
At the time. But then I did Torch Song for a while, and interestingly, I did a movie, and then they asked me back to do Brighton Beach Memoirs to take over for the next actor who had done it.
Oh, well, that's
And
good.
So it was good. So I got back, and then in the ultimate compliment, they asked me to understudy Matthew again when he was doing Biloxi Blues. So Biloxi Blues, which was the sequel to Brighton Beach Memoirs,
Yes.
was running uptown a few blocks from Brighton Beach Memoirs
Yes.
while I was doing Brighton Beach Memoirs. So the idea was that if Matthew got sick, but I knew he wouldn't get sick, but if Matthew got sick, I would leave my show, Brighton Beach Memoirs, and go uptown, run uptown,
Right.
and go on for Matthew. And my understudy would go on
Right.
in Brighton Beach at the time.
And did it ever happen?
That never happened.
Never.
Thankfully, I'm thrilled. I couldn't take that gig. I couldn't. It's a huge part, as you know. Just doing Brighton Beach is a huge part. So
Yeah.
having 2 plays banging around in my head at the same time, no.
Yeah,
Not-
and
not
that was a
gonna
big
happen.
deal. I've said this before. Chris Noth was on the show, and
Mm-hmm.
when I was in school at the Playhouse, half of my class, Dylan McDermott, they all ended up being in Biloxi Blues.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the big.
Yeah, it was a big get as an
You
actor
know.
because it was great parts and
Oh my
Neil
God.
Simon, and it was fun. It was just you
Yeah.
know, and you could tell Matthew and that everybody up there was just having a wonderful time.
I was thinking suddenly Barry Miller. Like
Barry Miller, yes, who was so
where's
wonderful.
Barry Miller?
I know, where's Barry Miller?
Where is Barry Miller? The name of my after I blamed Dennis. Where is Barry Miller?
There you go.
He
That's
was
just
like
the sequel.
he
to
was all over
I
the
Blame
place.
Dennis Hopper.
I mean, he was so good.
Yes, he was wonderful. Saturday Night Fever. If you haven't seen Saturday Night Fever
Fame,
in a long time, and
Biloxi
Fame,
Blues.
Yes, but Saturday Night Fever. First of all, the story of Saturday Night Fever totally holds up and is
Yeah.
wonderful, and the drama of the show, the dancing. No, not at all. It's just terrible. And the actress who's supposed to be such a great dancer in it,
Yeah.
and is not.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what was her name? I don't remember. But
Yeah, that was a miss.
yeah, but the movie,
The movie
and the
part.
performances in the movie are fantastic, and
Yeah.
Travolta's amazing. Just everybody. Oh, it holds up so well. Beautiful piece of movie making, except for the dancing.
So with this, with your Matthew Broderick thing, I can't believe nobody's ever put you together. You haven't
No,
been.
well, we're similar, you know.
But why wouldn't? I mean, wouldn't that have been the most genius casting to make you guys brothers or
Brothers.
something?
Well, but I think they like it when people have a really different vibe. You know, the characters have to have a really different take on. He and I are different people. You know, I think he's a genius as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. I think he's
Right.
great. You know, so I would love to work with him.
God,
In a
it's to
minute
me
I
that's
would
like
do it,
a
but, you
natural.
know.
It's like when I saw True West with Dennis and Randy Quaid. Well,
Yeah.
before Randy Quaid went to Barry Miller.
Yes.
Another. They're probably. I'm sure they're probably both in Montana.
Canada, yeah.
Somewhere with beards or something.
Yeah.
I'll keep referencing people that went over the edge. So then, how long after that did you go to Hollywood immediately,
No.
or did they audition?
Well,
Pretty in Pink in New York.
I
or-
auditioned for my first movie was a movie called O.C. and Stiggs with
Okay.
Robert Altman
Wow.
and Dennis Hopper, as a matter of fact.
You're
So
kidding.
I too blame Dennis Hopper because that was my very first movie.
Wow, what year?
Oh gosh,
I'm not good with
80. I think I shot it in the summer of '84, but it
Okay.
never really came out.
Okay.
So it doesn't. I don't know if it has a
Wow.
year officially.
Yeah.
But it was Robert Altman. I got up to his hotel room. No, no, it was his apartment actually.
Yes.
He had a fantastic place on Central Park West.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember.
And it was just you felt special to be there. And he sat there and interviewed me for a long time. We just talked and shot the
Yeah.
shit, which is like for an actor that's crazy. It's like I have lines or
Yeah.
whatever. You expect to go in and actually do the part, but he didn't want that. He just wanted to sit and talk with me for a while. And I think we talked, and I was a big fan of the articles in National Lampoon that O.C. and Stiggs was based on.
Uh-huh.
So I think he decided that meant something.
Yeah.
that I already was familiar with the material. So that was the first part I ever got offered, and I was absolutely petrified to work with Bob Altman. And of course, there's no reason to be petrified of working with Bob Altman. He was great, you know, it was a really fun experience, but a misleading experience because we were just making up the movie as we went along, basically, and nobody does that. you
Yeah.
know? And so, and every night he'd have dailies, and everybody came to dailies and watched
Right.
dailies and had a glass of wine, and you know, and every now and then he'd force you to watch Three Women, you know, which was fascinating to sit and watch Three Women with Robert Altman sitting right behind you.
Wow. And what would he say? Like this was treated unfairly, or what was...
No. Well, by that point, Three Women was considered a masterpiece by many. But I think Brewster McCloud heard him. I think that one didn't go over well, really bugged him. But he would every now and then pipe in with something, some in joke.
Yeah.
You know, like try to get those pigeons to stay in the right place. Har har har. And you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? But you know, and he would show like Popeye, which was like his legendary flop.
Yeah.
But he was, I don't know, there was just a lovely party atmosphere, and all these great actors like Ray Walston and Dennis Hopper, and you know, wonderful
Did you have any
people.
interaction with Dennis Hopper?
Only a little. We were only on the set together 1 or 2 days.
That's all it takes.
I know.
That's
But I did not realize that he was actually a fantastic photographer.
Yes.
At the
Yeah.
time. And so he was just wandering around taking everybody's picture.
Wow.
And actually recently a friend of mine as a gift gave me a Dennis Hopper book of photography.
Yes.
And I was just first of all just astonished at the life lived, because it was pictures of a lot of his a lot of people he met during the civil rights movement and stuff like that, and just, you know, amazing shots of these, you know, iconic human beings just hanging out, you know, and that I did not know he possessed that talent.
Yes, really a Renaissance man, collected art. And, you know, loved to talk about acting. Did anyone ever say you have a Jerry Lewis quality?
Oh yes, including Jerry Lewis, which was an honor.
I'm
I guess.
obsessed with Jerry Lewis.
Oh really?
Anything?
Oh my gosh,
I love Jerry.
His son Scott worked on 2.5 Men.
He did
actually, he worked on one of the sitcoms. Yeah, I think he worked on one of the first couple of seasons of 2.5 Men, or another one that I did. I don't remember exactly which, but he at one point was saying, you've got to play my dad in something.
Yeah.
And he said, I want you to meet my dad. And I said, okay. And so we went to the Paramount lot and had lunch in the commissary.
I love this.
And his dad was just the effusive and lovely Jerry Lewis, you know, the one you hope to meet.
Yes.
Not the one everybody always met.
I know. I was lucky.
Oh, so you met him as well? Okay,
yes, yeah, we worked together and became friends.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But he was prone to just, at one point he took a couple of chopsticks, I guess he was having the Chinese chicken salad, and he just put them under his lips and started going, oh, 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 like a walrus. And that's just fun. That's just lovely. And I think, I know his son was trying to get a biopic going for a while. I know another one went with Sean Hayes, who did, I think, a fantastic job in that.
You would have been better. And I love Sean Hayes, but I'm telling you, I knew the man, and you really have the quality of him.
It would be an honor. I was in awe of his talent, and he's again an amazing person in this industry.
Oh my God!
In terms of the work they did and what they.
Every time you look at a monitor.
Yep, it's true.
Jerry Lewis.
There you go.
So then how did you meet? Let's get back to then after that movie, was Pretty in Pink your next film?
No, I did a movie called No Small Affair. That was my first movie that came out. And that's a different experience when you do one that just sits in the studio.
God, well maybe it'll come out sometime.
No, it did. It's on DVD in a few places, and it's a neglected part of his oeuvre, as they say.
Yes.
But I haven't seen it. I saw a very rough cut before Bob gave it to the studio, one where he was still happy with it.
Yeah.
But my understanding was it got completely decimated after that, so I haven't seen it. But I remember even during the watching the dailies every night, thinking, this is hilarious to us, but I don't know if anybody else is going to get this, you know. So It was a big learning experience, but then I did a movie called No Small Affair with a director named Jerry Schatzberg, who was known for, again, photography and for Panic in Needle Park, which is an incredibly gritty movie about heroin addicts.
Right, and the one Gene Hackman and Al Pacino.
Yeah. I can't remember the title, but at any rate,
Scarecrow.
Thank you. Well done. Wow. At any rate, he was lovely, very soft-spoken. I didn't. There's some directors you work with and you totally get what they're going for.
Yeah.
I did not get what he was going for.
Right.
So I did. I did what I did my best. And he would. He was very. Again, he was. You never. If you did it right, he didn't say anything.
Right.
It was just cut and let's move on. But I needed more feedback than that.
Yeah.
And if I really pressed him, he'd say, "Oh, it was great. It was wonderful." That was as much as I got back from him. And so it was me and Demi Moore actually, and a young Tim Robbins, Jennifer Tilly. It was a really. It was an interesting experience.
Now.
Well, yeah, I got sick I got a horrible attack of mono during it, and it's so bad that eventually I couldn't work anymore, and we shut down for a week. And at the time, I thought that's no big deal. But we'll shut down for a week. We're in San Francisco. Everybody have a nice time. It's like go to Fisherman's Wharf. Have a nice time, everybody. What I did not understand is that's financially ruinous for a movie shutting down for a week.
Right.
But at the time, I just stayed in my hotel and watched HBO. I was like, "Hey guys," completely cavalier about the whole thing. And I later found out that. And here's you want some Hollywood dirt.
Of course, love it.
I had auditioned for 2 movies in the same day. I had met with Peter Bogdanovich for Mask, for the lead in Mask, and met with Jerry Schatzberg about the lead in No Small Affair. And I got offered No Small Affair, and Peter Bogdanovich wanted me to meet Cher, but the No Small Affair people wouldn't wait. So I had to give them a yes or no, and I thought, well, I don't know if Cher's going to like me.
Right.
And so I took No Small Affair, and apparently that made Peter Bogdanovich very angry, because when we shut down for a week, apparently that was the happiest week of Peter Bogdanovich's life, because he was telling people, they had to shut down because the kid got sick, and I was like, that's an odd thing to be happy about.
That's not nice.
But it's not nice. But that being said, that Mask is a terrific movie. Eric Stoltz is amazing. I can't imagine anybody else doing it. So I probably wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
Peter Bogdanovich. So there.
I know, that's not nice. Talk about naming names.
Right.
Yeah, but he's a genius. He'll be fine.
Boy, they have I'm friend. My director friend John Milley says no grudge is too small.
No.
So I think directors are. I was with a director for a number of years, and it'd be like, oh, there's so-and-so. Yeah, I hate him. He turned me down.
That's the fuel.
They're
That's
not so happy when you turn them down.
John Milius, I met.
You did?
When I auditioned for Red Dawn.
Oh,
yes.
You could have been in Red Dawn.
I could have been in Red Dawn, but I just wasn't good enough and didn't get into Red Dawn. But oh my goodness.
So you must have been auditioning again, like you're naming all the this is like my sweet spot of movies of like what other, Mask and Red Dawn. These were all what were some of the other movies that
one of my first auditions was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Still crushed that I didn't get that because I love that movie. I love that movie. To this day, and having been in Pretty in Pink, which I think is actually a really good teen movie,
yes.
and one of the few that really stands up, that holds up over time. But I feel like Fast Times and Say Anything were like two, of the best.
Yes,
and great. Exactly, and I did not get into Fast Times, sadly, and never even got to audition for Say Anything. But
no, I had heard a rumor. This may be totally off, but I had heard a rumor that Martha Coolidge was originally involved with Pretty in Pink in some way. That she worked on the script.
No, what that was, and this is quite a story. This is a much more complicated story. While I was doing Pretty in Pink, John Hughes gave me the script to the next big thing he was going to do. He was doing Ferris Bueller. He was going to shoot Ferris Bueller with Matthew right in like the last few weeks that we were doing Pretty in Pink. But the thing he was doing after that was he had written something that Howie Deutsch, who had directed Pretty in Pink, was going to do, called Some Kind of Wonderful.
Right.
And he wanted me to do that, and he gave it to me. And it was, at that point, it was much more like Ferris. It was a kind of broad comedy about a kid who, like the nerdiest nerd imaginable, Napoleon Dynamite, basically on a sort of dare, asks the prettiest girl at school to the prom. And she, in order to piss off her boyfriend at the time, says yes. And it was about him taking her on the date of her life in order to win her from her dickhead boyfriend. But it was very antic and silly. And he wanted me to do it with Mary Stuart Masterson, as a matter of fact. And we came in and read for it, and everybody said, well, we're good. We got a movie. We're going, And Howie actually told me the inside scoop on this. Howie asked John if there was another script that John had written that Howie loved even more than Some Kind of Wonderful, and he said, "Please, John, if you ever make that, please, can I be the guy who directs that?" And John took that as an enormous act of betrayal and fired Howie from the movie, from Some Kind of Wonderful. So I'm naming names today. This is clear the decks, everybody.
What do you got in that cup?
It's just Coke. I mean, the Coca-Cola. So he fired Howie. I mean, literally, like, changed the locks. Fired Howie, and so Howie was off the movie, and they brought in Martha Coolidge to rewrite Some Kind of Wonderful.
Okay.
Martha Coolidge did not want me to be in the movie.
Oh no!
By the way, I do not hold this against Martha Coolidge. I enjoy Martha Coolidge's work, and whatever. I understand. You're a director. You're brought in, and you want it. It's got to be the movie you want to make.
Right.
And I respect that. But she rewrote the script, made it a lot more down to earth, but it started getting very close to Pretty in Pink. So then they fired her and brought back Howie and made it into Pretty in Pink. It was the same movie, basically.
Wow.
But by that time, Eric Stoltz had been cast because
Yeah.
Martha Coolidge loved Eric Stoltz, and Some Kind of Wonderful happened.
Jeez.
But it's a wacky business.
It's sordid. Yeah, that's.
I'm telling you this.
No, yeah.
I'm telling you this.
Please, when you say the Matthew Broderick thing, for me it was like I kept losing parts to Rosie O'Donnell. Like I was like, can't she just?
What?
I know, but it was like with the baseball movie. It was like Sleepless in Seattle. Like every movie, I was like, oh, please God, tell me that Marissa Tomei or Rosie O'Donnell or. And every once in a while you'd actually get one, and you'd be like, what a relief.
Jeez.
Did you like Johnny? I feel like he's somewhat mysterious. Like, we don't know much about John Hughes. I once saw his house.
I did not. Oh, really?
Nicely decorated. Yes, I knew the woman who decorated his house.
Okay, that's as close as you got. Did you get any insight into him from that?
I did. Because I'm a snoop. It was very East Coast, kind of the way it was decorated. It looked like a Cape Cod mansion. Not Beverly Hills at all. Everything was, corduroy couches and sisal rugs and extremely tasteful. And I was like, wow, this is not, it was my same experience of going to Don Rickles' house. Have you ever gone to Don Rickles' house?
I've never been to Don Rickles'.
Okay, it's like an English cottage. It is not.
So it's oddly tasteful for somebody who you'd expect might do a gonzo thing or something.
It's like brick paths and rose gardens.
Yeah,
and like,
oddly traditional.
Exactly. And John Hughes was very East Coast. So what were your impressions of him?
They were only impressions because I never really got to know him. He was at my audition. He was there several times when we rehearsed for 2 weeks on Pretty in Pink, and that's unusual. I haven't done a movie since where I got 2 weeks to rehearse.
Yeah,
on
I know
it.
that it did.
And it was great, and it was that really transformed the things for all of us. I mean, we just got to know each other, and we really felt a part of something. But you know, I got the impression that he was a guy who'd really been shaped by his high school experience. You know, he had married his wife. Nancy was a cheerleader. You know, and they, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it was clearly, you know, and he was a music nerd in school, and I got that he was very much a perfectionist, but he wanted the actors to bring stuff to it. So he wasn't precious about every single word, but he had an intensity about how honest he needed everybody to be, which was great. But he was also known for, you know, being capricious, you know, and that kind of stuff. And I worked with, you know, he didn't direct Pretty in Pink. I worked with Howie most of all. And Howie and I totally got each other. We were both East Coast guys and loved all the same movies, and you know, and you know, I totally understood what he was going for. You know, but John was always, you know, like he'd invite me over to his offices when he, like at one point he redid his offices on the Paramount lot, and they was all neon, and you know, it was very new wave, and because he just kind of wanted me to see it, you know, and he wanted me to hear. He was putting together a record label. And he wanted me to hear some of the bands. You know, he's like, "This is Flesh for Lulu. You're gonna love them." You know, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
That seems like a good idea, actually.
And that was very cool. But I never felt like I got to know him, and he never screwed me over. You know, he was a distant guy, but I you know, I never felt like he, you know, wasn't good to me.
Mm-hmm. So then you were in the movie, and you don't have to dwell on it, but there was not great chemistry between you and Molly Ringwald. She's chilly.
She's chilly. Yeah, she's
her.
not an effusive person.
I remember, like, I was really close friends with Paul Mazursky, and she knew him too because she was in The Tempest. And every time there'd be like an event, like you do a play reading, or she'd be there. It was always be like, "Why are you here?" You know, like there was always that. I was like, "Hi."
She's remote. I'm
Maybe
an
she
East
needs
Coast
glasses.
person. Yes, that's it. She needs glasses.
Maybe she goes-
She's squinting because she can't see. No, we're from the East Coast, and I'm used to just much more out there.
Yes.
Perhaps needy. I don't know what the word is, but people for whom
outgoing.
Very outgoing people. She is not that. She's very remote, and she doesn't feel the need to be on or entertain or anything like that. She's not mean or cruel or anything. She's just sort of there. And that works wonderfully for her as an actress because, you know, it just allowed her to be very honest, and you, as an audience, project things onto her. It's like
totally.
It's like Clint Eastwood, you know?
Yeah.
He's just there, he stands there, and you're like, oh, he's doing great things. You're like, but he's squinting. There's nothing happening there. Like she and I would do scenes together, and I'd be like, okay, when's she gonna start? But it's because she has a wonderful reserve, and she doesn't feel the need to amp things up, and that's one of the reasons that Howie said he cast us was because we were so different. We were so different even in the audition.
Right.
You know, I was trying way too hard, and she was hanging back, and Howie just thought, okay, that's the right vibe. That's what I'm looking for. And so I assumed because she was remote, oh, she doesn't like me, you know, which wasn't the case, you know. And Andrew McCarthy is also kind of taciturn and very, very quiet. And I assumed, oh, he doesn't like me either.
I still feel he doesn't like me.
No, he doesn't. No. He talked to me about that. He does not.
Again, there are certain people where you're like, why is he giving me a dirty look? Like I belong. But again, it could just be me. You know, I do that all the time.
Well, that's the thing. I do too. I
think that's a good quality. I feel like
being needy is a good quality.
I feel like Albert Brooks and people like that are I like insecure people.
I do too. I get them, and I am upfront about my insecurities. And part of I have to figure part of why people enjoy
it's comedy.
my work is because, you know, they get that I'm on a high wire and I don't really know what I'm doing. And I think that works for me.
Who taught you? You have such a great sense of physical comedy. Did you always have that? You sense your body?
No, I did not have it on purpose. When I started understanding how the people that do it really well do it.
Yeah.
Then I tried to learn it.
Right.
But at first I was just awkward.
Right.
And never didn't stand up straight and was just a goofball on stage.
Yeah.
And that gave me, and I used my hands way too much. You'll probably notice that if you're watching the podcast. It diffuses my energy, but it also makes me non-threatening, so I can say horrible things. And people just go, ha ha! He just quoted Hitler. Ha ha! Look at how his hands wave around. Who could be scared of him?
It's funny you say that about hands, because when I was in acting school, my best acting teacher used to tie my hands and not let me use my hands, and you actually use a lot more energy when you tie them down. And one of the things I hate when I watch actors in a serious scene is when they do this, and that's always a clue to me of bad. It's like, put the hands down. Don't,
sweetie, drop the hands.
Yeah, people don't do that in real life. In comedy, you can get away with it, but when you start doing
I have learned that, and I'm not, and drama is I love doing drama, but I don't get not asked to do it all that often.
So funny. I would cast you in a drama in a second.
Oh,
No, your whole look did you come up with that look? Was that your look, like your clothes in
in Pretty in Pink?
Yeah.
Oh, the clothes were Marilyn Vance, who was the costume designer, who was. I had imagined a whole different thing for him. I thought he was going to be a rockabilly. Because I had a friend.
Well, you look sort of rockabilly, though.
Well, he had the hair.
Yeah.
That was under my control. The clothes, however, were under the costume designer's control. No, what happened was I had a friend growing up named Artie, who was a rockabilly times 10. I mean, he did the Stray Cats hair, which, if you recall, the Stray Cats band, their first hair was like a parody of rockabilly. It was like fully 4 inches on top of their heads, and it was madness. And that's what he did. Yeah. And he looked great. In he was a very stylish guy. And he stood out from the crowd, and that's who I wanted to be. I wanted Duckie to be that guy who was he was in the wrong place, but he was stylish getting there. And but Marilyn said that she wanted it to be she wanted him to clash. She wanted things to be so clashy that it ended up making its own statement. And so she would put, here you go, you're trying on lederhosen. Sure, why not? And so she, and we arrived at this look through, a lot of trial and error. But it was funny because there was a part of me that was sad, because I was like, oh, I had this thing that I wanted to do, but I guess that's not what's going to happen. But in the end, it shows you what's fantastic about collaboration, because that look is who Duckie is, and she was right. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason that she won an Academy Award. She's good at what she does.
Well, I saw you later. We were on like Johnny Carson show. You had your more rockabilly.
Yes. I could do my own thing.
Did you go like vintage shopping here in like
just on exactly Aardvark on Melrose. Yes, I did that, and
vintage was really in those days.
It was it was fun. It was fun, and it was cheap, which was nice.
Yeah.
But I remember going on Johnny Carson petrified.
Oh my God!
Absolutely. Now
I've got to ask you about that, because that must have been exciting.
Well, but you've done those things.
I never did Johnny Carson.
Oh my gosh! Well,
Or Leno, because
seriously,
because when I every time I did a movie, you had to choose
one or the other.
In my day, you had to choose between Letterman and Carson, and I chose Letterman.
It was my day too, Illeana Douglas. Just so you know, I had to make those choices as well.
Back in the day,
it was like Sophie's Choice. It was like Letterman.
I did every bad. I did like. Did you? I was on Donnie and Marie. Howie.
I did Donnie and Marie.
I did every
yes.
I turned down. I was.
Yes, I go back to. I did Merv Griffin. Yes,
what?
I did Merv Griffin.
Find that. Oh my God!
I did the Mike Douglas show, but I was a kid. I did Phil Donahue.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Do you have any of these on tape?
Yes, I believe I do. I know I have Phil Donahue. And I know I have Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin was fun because he was awesome and really smart and did not care anymore. So he would just, chat about whatever he felt like chatting about.
Yeah.
And it was great. Carson, I was petrified.
Yeah.
I was absolutely petrified, and it didn't go great, But what freaked me out about
It was
Carson?
okay. You look great.
Oh, well, thank you.
You had a nice outfit on, and
Well, what weirded me out about Carson was you're talking to him, and he's talking like this, and then they break for commercial, and just he stops, everything dies on his face, smoking a cigarette off here that was there the whole time,
Right.
But then he's smoking a cigarette. Thanks for being on the show, and that was it. And then he would talk with his producer for a little while, and I remember Pia Zadora was on my episode of Johnny Carson, and she sang too long, so half of my segment got cut.
Oh, wow.
Pia Zadora.
Jesus.
Oh, I'm naming names.
Yet another.
Yeah.
Yet another. She's with Randy and Barry Miller. Yet another. So the movie comes out. What was the first thing? Did you get paid a lot of money, or was like nothing?
It was a lot of money to me, absolutely.
But I look back and I think something was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
No, it was not. It was not. It was in
Well
retrospect, it was not.
But you got a run of the picture deal. That was the other thing that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like you said, the rehearsal.
Yes.
No, you get
Yeah,
hired
you get
for a
paid
movie
the
like for
whole-
6-7 weeks or something.
Yes.
God, it was great.
It was great. But yes, but Molly was already a megastar by then.
Yes.
So she was sucking up all the air in the room, money wise.
And I want to get to Superman 4 and your show. So, but how many takes did you do of the dancing thing, and at what point in the schedule did it come up?
It
was
came
it
up-
a throwaway or?
It was supposed to be a throwaway. It was about this much in the script. It
Yeah.
was about a paragraph in the script. He comes in singing a song, frantically lip singing a song. He's a joker, and then we go into the scene. And I had, when I was auditioning, I had wanted to show Howie some, because I had been famous for my Mick Jagger impression at the time.
Love
and
it.
I was going to say, if you want to knock this out of the park,
Yeah.
my Mick Jagger will just kill. It's time that it was committed to celluloid. And he said, okay, and he thought about it, but I never actually showed it to him. And as we got closer to, that was in the first week of shooting. We were shooting all the record store stuff in the first week. And as we were getting closer and closer, I was like, do we know what song I'm going to sing? And he said, Howie said, we can't afford anything that Mick Jagger has ever recorded. And his dad was in the music industry and somehow got the rights to the Otis Redding song, Trial of Tenderness. And I had not heard the song before.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I hope this is something fun for you." And I listened to it. And I said, "Well, that last bit is amazing. But it's an awful long bit up to that. How long do you want this to be on screen?" He said, "No, we'll edit it down. So okay. And I thought, I said how I really want to make something of this.
Yeah.
And so he got me together with Kenny Ortega, of all people, who's a wonderful director and choreographer, and really responsible for a lot of iconic 80s choreography. I mean, Dirty Dancing and, he and I just spent a day in a rehearsal studio with him trying to figure out what I could do. And we showed it to Howie the next day on the set, they had shut down the set, and it was Howie and Lauren Schiller, the producer, and I gave it my all. I did the whole number, really it was like at the end of Riverdance when you're and he didn't seem to like it, and I thought, oh crap, we kind of
Exactly
worked hard
what
on
you
this.
did in the movie.
Exactly what I did in the movie. I showed it to him, and he was like, and he did not seem pleased with it at all. And I said, "What's going on, Howie? I thought it came together pretty well." And he said, "Oh no, it's great. I just don't know how I'm going to shoot it because they had only slated a half a day to shoot the whole thing,
right?
Because it was supposed to be a throwaway." And he said, this is a big thing, you know, and I just don't know how I'm going to have the time to do it. And so there was all this whispering between he and Lauren. If we move around the better. And they decided to slate a whole day for it.
Wow.
And it pushed it for Howie. It was a very ballsy choice because he was a first-time director, and it meant that he was going to be behind schedule for the rest of the shoot, and he would be behind schedule in the first week. You know, but he felt like it was worth getting.
What a great story.
And he was right.
God bless him. Did people applaud after you did it the first time?
Yeah, and I know that because I went to the theaters where it was playing, because it was playing. Okay, this is a dream moment for an actor, because it was playing at Lowe's 44th Street, Lowe's Astor Plaza, which is where I saw Star Wars, which was like one of the.
That was a great theater.
Yeah, which is a huge.
I saw Reds there, I think.
Yeah, perfect theater for Reds.
Yeah.
You know, huge screen, great sound. You know, and you know, everything was an event. And I remember. You know, going in a limo, you know, and the movie had started. It was about 5 minutes in, and I just went in with a friend of mine, a girl who was rather a woman. Sorry, we were both youngish at the time, who was in Brighton Beach Memoirs with me at the time, and we went in, and we took a limo to the theater, and we went and sat in the front row, and the scene played, and it just got this round of applause, and I was just in heaven. I just couldn't believe that that this was happening to me, and I sort of snuck back up the aisle and got in the limo and went to another theater and went to see if it happened anywhere else.
2 years.
You know, you need that. You need that. That's like heroin, people. You
Well,
know?
it's like everything in your career that's led up to that.
Yeah.
You know, and then for it to have such a place in cinema history, you know. I watched the thing of you and James Corden, you know, recreating it, and it's such a nostalgic, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's an enormous gift for an actor to participate in something that people.
And plus, it was organic. It was from you, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, again,
it was organic to the character, and it was, you know, it was like one of those things where everything works. And
I love that the idea that the director said, "Let me just see what I can do." That was great. Okay, so what I know, I'm going to run out of time here. I have to get to. We have to talk about Superman 4.
We don't have to.
Nobody's
forcing you. This is America.
Just as a cursory, you did get to work with Gene Hackman.
I did get to work with Gene Hackman, which was a thrill.
Christopher Reeve,
who was so lovely.
My God,
who was so lovely, and was, you know, as lovely as you could hope that guy would be.
Anything crazy, like when he's wearing the suit every day, like anything just kind of like, is that surreal?
For me, the flying stuff was the most fun a human has ever had.
Right.
He was so sick of it by then. And it's especially hard for him because he was in the way you've done
days.
Flying stuff. They would hook you up with a harness that went around your midriff, but he had to have an especially small one because he's Superman and he's wearing a skin-tight outfit. So his one is about the size of a bikini. Most of the harnesses are about the size of boxer briefs, you know, and they hold you up, and they've got a lot more body to grab onto. But tiny bikini briefs are incredibly uncomfortable to hang from. So by the time that he and I, like every time they would have his stand-in do all the flying stuff with me. And I was like, you know, no, you know, I don't care that it's a rehearsal. I'm doing it. You know, put me in. But he was really tired of it by then, and totally understandable when you're on the fourth movie of a franchise.
I know, who knew it would have such a comeback. And and Gene Hackman, did you learn anything? I mean,
I did. He was very workmanlike.
Yeah,
he was having
I heard
a great
he can
time.
be tough.
And he can be tough. He wasn't with me. He was lovely with me, and we were always just cracking each other up, which was fun.
Great.
You know, it wasn't a serious movie, so maybe that's why he was a little more lighthearted about it. Plus, he got to golf a fair amount during his off time. But also, he kind of bought out emotionally because very early in the process, it was clear to everybody but me that the movie was a horrible fiasco. That they were running out of money. The sets were getting cheesier and cheesier looking. They were cutting whole weeks out of the shoot schedule. The craft service was going to shit. It was just, you know, everybody could read the writing on the wall, but me. I was still new. So I was still showing up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed every morning, and everybody else was kind of just like, whatever, you know, cashing the checks, you know. and the movie's a mess because Cannon, the company that made it, was not used to making big budget movies. They just weren't. You know, they made Delta Force, you know, and these little exploitation movies. So they just ran out of money and didn't know how to finish the movie. So they cut together this mess of a movie that doesn't make any sense.
You know, part of why some movies like that can be unintentionally funny though, because I was watching clips from it, and it's like Valley of the Dolls. I actually think because of your enthusiasm, because Chris Reeve is like, he looks like this.
I cannot believe I'm here.
But you are like 90 miles an hour.
I am committed, just making every stupid joke imaginable.
I love it.
Yes, we have to do a panel at Comic-Con one year because it is legendarily bad, that movie.
Is there a commentary to it?
No, I've never. Somebody's got to do a deluxe, you know, total. You know, but there's still people, I think, who like are trying to guard their reputations and don't want to admit that it was bad. But
really?
It's like, oh, come on,
They
guys.
should listen to John Frankenheimer's commentary of Reindeer Games.
Okay.
It's one of the most refreshing.
This was a fucking train wreck.
Every scene, he goes scene by scene. He goes, okay, I'm going to tell you what happened here. Yeah, I'm not proud of this, you know, and it's insane. It's so.
Oh, I have to do this. I did not know this was available. I have to. I have to do that now.
In this day and age, if you're there to be he does it in a way that's constructive.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't particularly name names. He just but he talks about the process that he went through and too many cooks and things like that. And I mean, you know, I find it to be really interesting.
Oh my gosh, yes. Knowing how things go wrong is a fantastic part of the process because let's face it, it's so rare that things go right.
Right. That's
you know,
true.
it's so rare that a movie just comes together and just everything is effing perfect.
Yes.
You know.
So another comedy movie you were in was Hot Shots.
Yes.
And that must have been a fun experience. That's a very funny movie.
It was fun. It was fun. It was a remarkably technical movie.
Yeah.
Because those kind of jokes, you know, they seem very, you know, off the cuff and, you know, and loopy, but but technically you actually have to be very precise about how you deliver those things.
Yeah.
And Charlie Sheen was just he was a machine for for doing that kind of comedy, for doing absolutely straight-faced, you know, committed gonzo comedy. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know, and Jim Abrams and Pat Proft and, you know, those guys were just lovely and perfect and kept it lighthearted. But we did have a serious job to do. We had to, you know, make what was a hilarious script.
Yeah.
You know, make all of that come out on screen. And, you know, it was great to be a part of, to see technicians.
Right.
You know, comedy technicians really do, you know, be very specific and make stuff work. It wasn't about anarchy at all.
No, very technical gags. I mean, again, very kind of Jerry Lewis.
Very much so.
You know, by the numbers. Did you like Cary Elwes?
Yes, he was lovely.
He's very funny. I think people don't realize how funny he is.
He's very wry, and and he's got the British accent. Although it's mellowed a little bit now. But also, you know, he's impossibly handsome.
That's true.
Which, you know, there's all kinds of stuff you can.
You were sandwiched between were you like Jerry Lewis though? Like everybody sort of thought it was Dean Martin, but actually Jerry was getting most of it.
No, I would love to say that I was getting most of them.
Well,
but it was not. That was not the case.
It's because they'd say, "Well, no, he's not going to be out of my league." But this one,
well, no. Apparently, Don Knotts, same thing. Apparently, Don Knotts got over like nobody's business.
Interesting.
You know, God bless him. That's awesome. And I'm not saying I didn't get. Come on,
you were in Hollywood.
I was in Hollywood. I had my share.
Did you have any? Did you like go nuts, buy a big car, or how? Do you have any crazy expenses like that?
No, I was always too New York theater certain that I was going to be broke someday. that I never have. I still don't. I still hesitate. I drive a Chevy Volt most of the time. Actually, my wife's out of town.
How is the Chevy Volt?
Chevy Volt's awesome.
Oh, okay.
It's a great car.
I see it around. It looks good.
Yeah, it's a great car. You fill it up a third of a gas tank every year. I swear to goodness. It's an awesome car. But my wife's out of town, and she's got a Tesla, and I'm driving her Tesla while she's out of town.
Wow, what's that like?
It's awesome.
Closest I come to a Tesla is seeing it on
They're-
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
They're fantastic cars. They're absolutely fantastic cars. But the Volt's great too, and I'm happy to go back to my Volt. I'm not angry.
Aren't you scared when the valet, like, do you go take care of it, or do you do any?
No, I've come to a level of I let things go. You know, if the valet isn't going to treat my car with care, it's like whatever. I can't control that.
Okay, we have to barely, of course, get to 2.5 Men because I know I've run out of time. But favorite things about working on the show? I mean, obviously, it's interesting because your career is so interesting to me. My observation is you're so much funnier than people think you are, even though you were on a comedy.
On a comedy, yeah.
And I think that it comes as a surprise to people how funny you are. When they would give you physical comedy to do, that's what I thought you really kind of shined at.
Well, thank you. I loved it. I loved it, and it was always a point of pride for me to tell my stuntman Eddie, no, I got this one. You know,
Yeah.
that was, but you know, and like if they'd had to light my crotch on fire, I was like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, let's do it. You know, I've actually done 3 fire gags.
You're so likable.
Because I enjoy the challenge of it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because people always perceived, you know, oh, Charlie was the funny one on the show. And it's like, well, no, if you understood the comedy dynamic, yes, my character was the one who was super uptight.
Right.
But the dynamic, you know, wasn't that there was just one of us that was funny.
Yes.
You know, I wasn't a straight man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they gave Alan lots of great stuff to do. But I've never been like a stand-up.
Right.
You know, although I joke a lot, as you can see.
Yes.
But I've never been a stand-up, and I think, I don't know, doing comedy for an audience every Friday night for years is the best. It is just the best. You to get to feel that comfort in front of people, and that, you know, with characters that they already know, and writing that you like. I really like the writers on the show, and I loved working with Charlie. We had a great, easy rapport that was there from the first time we read together.
Is that the most important thing, just to have that chemistry?
Yeah,
You
we
just
got
kinda
each other.
read,
We both, we both were raised on the same sitcoms, the same, you know, we wanted the same things, and so it was real, you know, it was incredibly easy.
It's like you're like the Mick in, again, to use the, you know, like the Mick Jagger, Keith Richards analogy.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe there'll be a reunion.
Oh gosh.
No. When you know, when things sort of went off the rails a little bit.
Just a little.
Now it seems like,
yeah, it's no big deal.
like
Now I know.
TikTok.
Being a part of the first internet shitstorm
Yeah.
was fascinating. But I have now come to realize it was just the first. You know,
Yeah.
there's many more to come, unfortunately. And now it is funny because I wrote a book called So That Happened that is all about that. But when I wrote it, it was still a time when internet shitstorms were not daily.
No,
you know,
I think in my lifetime there was like 2. My mom would always go, and Julius LaRosa said something bad to Arthur Godfrey and ruined his career. You know, there was like 2.
That's a very specific reference, yes.
Yeah, well, those are my references because I was raised by old Italian people. But, you know, there was like, there wasn't like, your career, you didn't have a public, like, kind of a meltdown.
Yeah,
you know what I
that
mean?
was unprecedented.
Although I think it's everyone's fantasy. It happens in movies quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, like
the Howard Beale moment. Yeah.
Yeah, the Howard Beale, or, you know, Get Him to the Greek, or, you know, you see these movies, but to see it when you're working with a person, do you get mad because you have such a, I mean, that would be me. I would be mad just because you have such a good creative thing going, and you think, well, why can't you pull yourself together
Yeah, well, that you're mad for a bunch of reasons. You know, obviously the show was when I first met him. He was 2 years sober. He was a different guy. You know, he wanted to have. He was married and was having a child and changing his life.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that's a journey you want to help him on. You know, he was
Right.
always a good guy to me when we worked together on Hot Shots. He was lovely to me.
Yeah.
You know, I had heard some of the stuff. You know, you know, the various issues he had gone through with drug problems before, but he definitely seemed on the mend. And we had, you know, 4 or 5 years that were great, where it was just lovely. You know, and he was a lovely guy to work with. And then, you know, I could see the personal stuff starting to go wrong for him.
And what do you think that is? Because I know so little about addiction. Because I'm just too. I'm like, I don't get it.
Well, I think he thought he could handle it. You know?
Really?
He
So
really.
It's not pressure. It's not.
Yeah, no, because the show was going great.
Yeah.
No, it was a matter of
Why not?
I think he's a guy who's never taken no for an answer. You know, you know, when he wanted to buy himself every classic car that he felt like buying, he ended up with a hangar full of classic cars. You know, and he bankrupted himself and had to sell his classic cars, but you know, he just did it. He just, you know.
But isn't that an addiction too? Isn't that what they say? I don't understand addiction.
It's all servicing an addiction. He had severe social anxiety. He had a stammer when he was younger. I mean, I think a lot of it, like he used to dread our read-throughs because he was really fighting his delivery and the fact that he had social anxiety, you know.
Right.
So there was stuff going on for him, but I think he was self-medicating over the years, and I think he you know, he tried being sober for a while and thought, you know what, I can get back into this and I can handle it this time, and obviously he couldn't.
So obviously, when you're working, you can sense because the jokes aren't sharp, or so you got to know immediately.
That
I mean,
happened. Oh, that happened way later. Like
You're like,
I think he started. I think he still started using and was still operating at a pretty high level, even though he was using. It wasn't until like the 8th season that it was really noticeable.
Right.
Where you're like, okay, they've got to cut down on the amount of scenes he has because it's a little off now.
Yeah.
And he was weird, you know, during rehearsals. He was talking to himself and making weird jokes to himself, and you know, and just not showing up for days and stuff like that. And that was very frustrating to work with, and frustrating to see, because you know he's going off the edge and he's making his life horrible, and he's making other people's lives horrible.
Well,
and you know, and you feel for them, and it's like, you know, I knew his wife, and I feel, you know, terrible for what she's going through, you know, so it's and it was just awful. But he was, you know, he's somebody you work with who's going through a horrible time, so it's not. You know, it's my job to show up and work.
Right.
And as a friend, I want to say, stop this.
Right.
Be better to your wife. You know, change how you are. But you know, I realized I wasn't really his friend. You know,
right.
I didn't really know him. So, you know, it never.
Did you ever wonder why, like, gee, why don't I have addiction problems, or is it just something?
Well, why should he have all the fun?
No, I mean, when you look back at someone who's crashing, you just go. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, it's just me personally. Like, I'm like, how you got a life? I don't see it. I don't see how do you you know, plane wreck your life.
Well, it wasn't until I had a weird time in the late 80s, right after I did Pretty in Pink, and a few years after that, I made a succession of, I did Superman 4, and I did a movie called Dudes, and I did like 3 movies in a row that all tanked.
Yeah.
And in the business, squandered all the goodwill I had built up as Duckie. And I was really mad at myself. And then I did a TV show, which was critically acclaimed, and then went down in flames in half a season. And I realized I was, you know, that doing stuff in my career that's important to me is a huge part of my personality. And without that, I felt really lost and depressed, and all of a sudden I was like, this is why people do drugs, is because feeling like this is so shitty.
Yeah.
You know, if you can do something that makes you forget that you feel this way, you know, and you either that or people go, here's the other route, which is like what happened to Jerry Lewis and what happened to Michael Jackson, is you get injured,
Right.
and you take painkillers to keep going and to perform, and then you need more and more and more and more until you know you've got a serious problem with them.
Yes.
You know, that's happened to a lot of people I know, and that's one of the reasons that I let my stunt guy do it now. I let him do the
I think
gag
you're better
now.
off. Okay, well, I have to wrap up. You mention your book again because I think the book is terrific and
Oh,
it's
thank
got
you.
lots of personal stories in it. And,
It's called So That Happened.
I'm so excited
And the
to.
audiobook is fun too.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I've been listening to the audiobook. It's
Oh, good.
very entertaining.
Oh, thank you. Thank
You're
you so
not
much.
half bad.
Have
Oh,
you?
thank you.
You could. Have you thought about going back doing theater now?
Yeah, I would love to.
I think you should.
Yeah,
You're so young. Like I feel like you're going to have a secondary.
I feel great. I feel, you know, I have stomach problems, but other than that,
You got a Tesla. I don't. But yeah, you know, look into some, you know, noises off or that could
Yeah,
be
there you go.
Would love it.
That
would
would
love
be
it.
fun.
So-
That would be fun. You can find John on Twitter at Mr.
Yes.
Jon Jon Cryer, and you can find his book in bookstores and on Audible. You can find Illeana's book, I Blame
right.
Dennis Hopper.
We blame him.
Now out on paperback. It's a great read. You should buy it. Also, check out our Facebook page on our website, illeanaspodcast.com. You'll find more about John there.
Yes, it's been such a thrill to finally
pleasure
meet you
has been
and
mine.
talk to you. Come back any time. And as we always say, everyone's life is a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this is the end of our little movie today.
Are we gonna die? This is
Just
the
a-
end. It's been wonderful knowing
We're
you.
gonna fade out, and then we're just gonna do an
And then
iris. We're gonna do an iris.
Very tastefully.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a great
See
day.
you next
Bye.
time.
Thank you.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.